favorite features from the world of Microsoft Power Platform. Today we're going to do a short video on components in Power Apps. Had a few questions on a few features of how to work with components. I thought it was worth doing a video on how to pass parameters in and out of components and how to create a simple menu structure. So you join me here in a standard out-of-the-box Canvas app with a single page and just a label added for the effect of the video. We're going to create a simple sort of menu structure here to move between a few pages, and we're going to understand a bit about how page information from the app is passed into something like a menu component, which doesn't have any knowledge of the app that it exists within, because the whole idea of components is that they can work across multiple applications, and they should be configurable to work in any application, that they can't be dependent on something that's in one application that would cause it to not work in another application. So first let's go and have a look at components, and we'll build ourselves a menu component. Before I do that, we'll create a couple of extra screens. We'll rename this screen here the home screen. We'll create ourselves a new blank screen. We'll call that one the form screen, and we'll create one additional screen here, and we'll call that one the gallery. Actually, let's call this one the success screen. Success screen, because that's similar to what you get with the standard 3-page layout. Okay, so let's just put a little header on there. Let's get rid of this one here. In fact, let's repurpose that as our header. In fact, let's pull that across, pull that up to there. So we'll call this one home. We'll copy that to our form screen, paste that in to our success screen, paste that in. So we'll just call this one form, just so we can see that we're moving between pages when we come to that part of it. And this one will be our success screen, let's say, for example. Okay, so we've got three screens now that we can switch between. So we want to build ourselves a menu to go between those things. So let's come across to components and click on new component. So I'm going to make a menu that's something along the lines of 300 wide and say 500 high. Let's come to the left here and just rename this to be our menu. Let's call it menu for now. So in order for this component to have any understanding of what's going on in our app, in terms of the pages to show in the gallery that's going to go on this component, we're going to need to be able to pass some information into it, essentially. So we'll click on the new custom property for this component. So the only thing I actually need to pass into it is the pages that I want to show in the menu. So let's call this one, or this screen's actually not pages, let's call this one screens. This custom property is going to be an input. Now this is where it gets interesting. So we're not just passing in a piece of text or a number. We want to, because we want to be passing in something which will give it a title as well as a screen, and there'll be multiple of those. It's essentially kind of a table that we want to pass into it. It's like a mini data source, essentially. So it's going to be a table that we're passing into it, because it's going to be one row essentially for every screen, and that will contain a reference to the screen and a label that we want to show to appear on the menu. So let's just create that. So as ever, anytime you create a new custom property, it will give you some sample content, sample gubbins. So it's given us a really simple kind of table with numbers and booleans and things in it that you can see there. So we don't really need that to look like that. So let's just completely clear all of this out. So we'll put in some sample information here. And this is what you'll find actually with making components. It's often good practice to create them with some sample data. So when you first add them to your app, then they'll at least come in with some sample data and show something, rather than just being a blank component with no data. So the sample data side is useful because it also allows you to actually then build up the the app itself and the component itself from your sample data. So what we want to do here is have a table that looks something like this. We want the name of the screen, so let's call this screen 1. Remember, this is sample data. This is not the data that's actually not the screens in our app. This is some dummy sample data for now. This is the default for our screens input. So we'll have screen 1. We'll go comma, and then we'll have a screen attribute. Now this is the interesting part. In order to give it a screen data type, we can just do app dot. Maybe it needs to be capital A. App, dot active screen. There we go. App dot active screen, which is just the current screen, because this information at the moment has no knowledge of any screens that may or may not be present in the wider app. So I'm just going to copy that. That's a single record, if you like, in the table. I'm going to do a comma and another comma. So we've got 3 of those, and we're just going to change this to screen 2 and this one to screen 3. Okay, so now what this means is that later on when we come to run this, we're going to pass in some more app-specific data into the component. But for now, the screens property is kind of seeded, defaulted with this 1, 2, 3 screens table. So that's all good. Let's add in something to here to show what we've got. So we're going to want a vertical gallery. Let's put in one of the pre-configured ones. Let's actually delete that out. What I'll do is come up to here and use the blank vertical gallery. I've got less things to sort out then. So it's going to pull that into the shape so that it fills up all of the space of my component. And the items, you can see it's already using a custom gallery sample batch. I'm going to change this one to be menu.screens, which is the input parameter that we just configured. Now I'm going to add something into the gallery. It would be a text label. So you can see it's now pulling each of the records that I configured within my screens parameter. So let's just centralize that, make that a bit wider. Let's grab hold of the overall template and just pull that up to a sensible structure like so. Let's make this a little bit colorized so that it stands out and it looks a little bit like some buttons. You could obviously spend a bit more time making it look as pretty as you'd like. So what's next? So we've got some buttons showing the values that we're passing in, so that when we do this for real in the app, this will be home and form and success. This is the dummy values that you'll get initially before you configure it. So the only thing we need to do is make these interlinks that go off to the screens. That's the 2 things that Menu needs to do. It needs to show some labels and it gives us a button to press to go to those screens. So let's come to the label that we put into the template. Thing we're interested in here on the label is the on select. Let's just find that. There it is. So this is what happens when we click it. So we're going to delete the default select parent because we don't really want that to happen. So what we want to be able to do here is to navigate. So let's start typing navigate, and then we're going to, because we're in a gallery, we need to use this item, and already there it's showing us this item dot screen. So that's where we're going to navigate to. So depending on which item we click, ultimately there's going to be a different screen associated with that, and we come to do that for real at runtime. So that's all we need to do for our component. Let's just come back to the menu component just to reaffirm what we've done essentially. So we created a single property, which is an input property, allowing us to pass in a table of information to our component, and then the component will do what it needs to do with that information in that table. So we defaulted that table to be a simple 3-row table with 2 columns, essentially name and screen. You can see what it looks like there. It gives you a little preview of it, which is quite useful. So we can see we've got name there and screen alongside, so we've got some values for it to get its teeth into. We then went ahead and used our data that we created in screens and passed that into our items for our gallery to show it, which is probably the easiest way of creating a menu. So that's all good to go. We can start to play around with that in the app itself. So let's come to the app, come up to custom menu, and let's throw this on the page somewhere. That'll do fine. I'm going to copy that to the form screen. I'm going to paste that in. Actually, I'll do that in a minute because I need to configure this. We may as well paste it after it's configured. So right now, whenever I add it, you can see it comes in to the screen with the default values that we set when we built the component. Of course, I need this to show home, form, and success, not screen 1, screen 2, screen 3. So I need to basically pass something better into there to reflect the actual reality of my app as it stands at the moment. So I need to build a new table, but I can build that table within the on start of the app. Where I do have access to app-specific information, which I can then feed in to my component. So I'm going to come to the root of the app. Let's minimize those screens down. So there's my screens on the left in the tree view, and above that is my app root, essentially, where we can set up some different bits and bobs. So the thing we're interested in is the on-start event for our app. So if you haven't seen any of my other videos where I talk about this, this is essentially kind of your initiation area. So if you need to do anything like set variables, go off and get some data, a variety of different things that you want to set up here, then this is your place to do that, the on-start event of the app. So it'll only load once when the app loads, when it's used by the end user. So what we're going to do here, we're going to use a clear collect, and we're going to create menu items, and that will be again a table, and this time we're going to repeat what we did last time for the dummy data, but we're going to use real data. So let's go name, home, doesn't need to be a space there, could be tighter, name, home, comma, screen. Now, because we're doing this in the actual app, not in the component, we do have access to specific stuff. So let's start typing home. There it is, home screen, and that'll come up with a color for us, green. There we go. So let's just copy that item out, the home screen item. Let's copy that. Get rid of these empty ones. Paste. Paste. So we've got home. We've got form, and the screen will be the form screen, so let's get rid of that. Form screen in a different color, and then the last one is the success screen, so let's change the label to be success, and this will be there we go, it's just having a sleeping moment, success screen, there we go. So the different colors now, we've got red for the home screen, green for the form screen, and then we've got blue for the success screen. So again, just to recap, we've got a component on the page, it's got some dummy values in it. The dummy values enable us to build the component with the buttons and the labels in the place that we wanted them. We needed some data to be able to configure the way that data looks. So what we've now done is we've come back to the app, so we've gone up a stage to the actual app itself. We've created, or we're going to create, a menu items collection in the app, which will be a table which mirrors the input sort of properties that the component expects. It's expecting a name and a screen. So that's all good. So we have to remember to run the on-start event. So typically when this is in production, the on-start event will run once when the app starts, and that will get built, be invisible to the users. But of course, when we're developing stuff, we need to be able to trigger that without having to go off and start the app from scratch, which would be a pain. So we can actually simulate the start of the app with this little button here. So we're going to run that on the start event. So we should now have a collection called menu items. We can go ahead and look for that if we want to. If I come to view and collections, there we go, menu items, there we are. So we got home, form, and success, each with a screen associated with it. So that's all good. Now all we need to do is just basically pass that into our menu as a parameter, essentially. So I've clicked on the first instance of the menu that I added to the screen. You can see on the right here there's a component that I the input value that I can pass into the component. So I'll click on that. Right at the moment, it's obviously using the default that we set when we built the component, but now we've got some real values to go in there. We can bin that, we can scrub that off, and we can just pass into it the menu items. So you can see it's now happy. We've now got the 3 values that we're passing in, because we've replaced the sort of default template items, if you like, with our app specific items. So all we need to do now is just copy this, and it's easiest to do this and insert it from the top menu, because if you copy an item from the page, be it a control or a component, then and paste it, it will retain its X and Y coordinates, so it'll go in exactly the same location. So we'll go there, and success screen will go there as well. So they're now in exactly the same location. So now we just need to double check that everything's hooked up and the buttons do what they should do. So let's come back to the home screen and we'll give this a preview. So we're now on home. We'll click on that link, we'll go to form, click on that link, we go to success, and likewise. So although it looks like the menu is remaining static, we are viewing 3 menus essentially, which appear on each of the pages, but because they're all exactly in the same location, they're not moving or changing. So that's worked quite nicely and pretty straightforward. So just to recap again on what we've done, we created a component, a simple menu component with a single input. We gave that some dummy default screens, 1, 2, 3, just give us something to get our teeth into when we come to style the component. We then came to our first screen, the home screen, insert that component into there, and then we changed the screen's input value to the gallery that we created, the collection that we created at the root of the app. And always remember about the on-start event, very important. Just about every app you create will have some sort of on-start activity going on. Typically it might just be something like a set for a color 1, and then this might be like RGBA 27, 27, 27, 1, for example. So, and you can then go ahead and rerun that on start to actually then use that color 1 throughout your app later on if you wanted to. So I could then come to my header here, come to my fill, and that could be color 1, whatever that is. That should have worked. Color 1 on the start. Oh, okay, for some reason that's not happy. I'll work that out. Anyway, that's beside the point. So hopefully you've understood there that what's gone on. It's a little bit more convoluted than you might think, but you just have to remember that these components, they can't have any knowledge of what's happening in the app, because the whole idea of a component is that you could build this once and then you could export it to other apps later on. You come up to your lost it now. Where are we? Because we're here. Go come to the screen. So come to your custom here. You can export the components out. I might do a longer video showing all of that. But you can export them out to file essentially. And then next time you need a menu, rather than building it all from scratch, you just import the menu you did last time. So if you spend a bit of time stylizing that menu up to how you want it to look, adding some nice bells and whistles to it, maybe making a pop-out item based on another control somewhere, then you can just reuse that next time you do an app and save yourself some time next time. But of course your next app will have different screens, and they have to not be tied to the actual structure of the app, if that makes sense. So yeah, relatively short, quick video. Just shows you how to interact between your components and information that your app has, such as the screens, using different data types. I suppose the key takeaway with this is to bear in mind what we saw down here. If I had a new custom property, the different types of data types that there are. So we're really used to seeing things like text and number and Boolean and date and time as the critical sort of simple ones. But because this is Power Apps, we've got a few sort of app-specific ones. Things like screen itself is a data type, which is something new if you're not used to that. Records and tables, really important that we can pass a single row of values in, or an entire rows and columns of values in. Plus things like colors and images and videos and things are all different data types. So something good to bear in mind. So that's all I'm going to cover in this video. Hopefully you found that interesting, and hopefully I'll see you all on the next video.